Hello everybody, thanks for spending some of your precious time watching this video. Now, as you can see, my Monstera standleyana, aka Stanley, is at it again, meaning that it's basically mocking me. And by this I mean that a while ago I gave it the biggest moss ball in history, and I made a video about this in May, by the way, that you can still watch if you feel like it, and yet it is outgrowing this moss ball like there's no tomorrow. And on the one hand, this is obviously very frustrating, but on the other hand, as a houseplant enthusiast, I also consider this situation a wonderful propagation opportunity. But if you think that the cuttings of this plant will all turn into gorgeous standleyanas, you can think again, because these cuttings turn out to be as finicky as the mother plant itself. So let me show you some experiments I did with different cuttings. First of all, if you are the proud owner of a standleyana and you have taken cuttings, you will probably recognize this. This hot mess here is a 3-leaf standleyana cutting. It's been in water for many months and this cutting didn't give me one single root so far. The roots that you see are actually from this tiny Tradescantia pallida cutting, and even worse, the 3 leaves have completely curled up. Now, if you have a standleyana, you know that the curling of the leaves generally means that the plant is thirsty. Other plants, like the Scindapsus for instance, also have this curling habit when they are kept too dry. But this cutting here is propagating in water, so it can't be thirsty. So why is it curling? In my experience, there are two possibilities. First of all, cuttings of this plant have way more inactive nodes than most other plants. This cutting here has 4 nodes in the water and none of them gave me any roots, so bad nodes are definitely a possibility. But I think there is a second possible explanation, which is light. As you can see, this cutting is hanging in front of a huge window, and in my experience that is way too much bright light for a standleyana cutting to grow. So let me show you some other cuttings also sitting in water but with less light. Okay, so here we have 3 single-leaf standleyana cuttings, once again propagating in water. Now I put these in there I think like 2 months ago, so are they rooting? The answer is no. The roots you might be able to see are actually from a philodendron cutting. Second question, are the leaves curling? Well, as you can see, they are not. On the contrary, they are quite firm, and I think this is because these cuttings get very little indirect light from a very small LED spotlight. So this leads me to believe that just a little indirect light is what it takes for the leaves to not curl. So here's another example. Here we have one 4-leaf cutting and one cutting with just one single leaf. Now, are the leaves curling? No, they're not, since once again, these cuttings only get a little bit of indirect light, which seems to be all they need. But the more interesting question here is, did these cuttings root or did they not root? So let me start by showing you the 1-leaf cutting. And you can see that yes, it did grow roots, it is even working on a baby leaf on the water. So what about the 4-leaf cutting? Well, look at this. This root system is just gigantic. This cutting is so happy it's even throwing out a runner. Now, why did these cuttings root and the ones from the previous cuttings I showed you didn't? Well, I think that this here is the answer. This is a pothos cutting that I put in the same container from the start, and you probably already know that pothos cuttings are nothing less than a real drug for other plant cuttings. They just love it when there is a pothos cutting in the water together with them. Even this random wet stick is still producing roots like crazy because of the pothos. So if you put your standleyana cutting somewhere with very little indirect light, and if on top of that you add a pothos cutting, your chances to get roots should increase significantly. I also want to show you this. This is a standleyana cutting with several leaves that I had in water for ages. It didn't do anything at all except completely curling its leaves, so finally I decided to give it one last chance by potting it up with this Philodendron ernestii. And guess what? Even though this cutting had no roots at all, after a couple of days the leaves starting to unfurl, and now it's even working on a new leaf. So I guess sometimes it's a matter of sheer luck. Now, apart from water propagation, there is another way that works quite well, since I learned that standleyana cuttings also love to grow in pon, as you can see here. So that's yet another way to improve your chances to get more of these beautiful standleyana plants. Okay, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking it or subscribing to my channel. Thank you very much again for watching this video. I wish you a very nice day. Bye bye.